friends, it's Evelyn here once again. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, first things first, a huge thank you to all of you for continuing to support me. This week we are going to make use of those trouser blocks we created last week, and if you haven't created your own yet, I'll pop a card up above so you can do just that. So we're going to make use of it and also do something about my obsession with 1940s and 1950s jumpsuits and beach pajamas. So grab your trouser block, a smile and your pattern making supplies and come along with me as we create a 1940s inspired jumpsuit. Yes! Only took like a million takes. To create the pattern for your 40s jumpsuit today, you will need your bodice block, and if you haven't created one yet, I'll pop a card above to the video so you can do just that. You will also need your trouser block. Grab your pattern paper, rulers and a marker pen, and we're ready to get going. As always, there's also a written PRECIS in the description box. After looking at many inspiration images, I decided on the following design, and today we are going to create the version with straight shoulder straps. Firstly, start by tracing a copy of your front and back bodice blocks, transferring all markings and darts like so. My design has a single dart on the front bodice at the side seam, so today we are going to learn a little bit about dart manipulation. To begin, cut up the centre of both your front darts. Extend these cuts to just before the apex point, creating a kind of hinge. We are then going to use that hinge to close our side dart like so by joining the dart legs together, pivoting the fullness from the side dart into the waist dart like so. Measuring my side seam, I made a mark at halfway, marking the location of my new side dart. From this mark, I drew a line to the apex, cutting along this line to just before the apex point, creating a second hinge. From this hinge, I was then able to close the waist dart, pivoting the fullness into our brand new side dart. Taking my French curve, I then smoothed my pattern lines where I had closed the side and waist darts. Working on the neckline, I have come down ½ inch from the side arm side and made a mark. From this mark, I then curved a line upwards to meet at the centre front point. To find where you want your centre front point to be, I suggest you grab a tape measure, placing it at your waist and drawing it up between your apex. Work out how long you want your bodice piece to be. Grab your scissors and cut out your new front bodice piece. Use some scrap paper to fill in your new side dart, and with your scissors score and fold the dart legs together to enable you to cut out the side as a neat and accurate pattern like so. And believe it or not, your jumpsuit front bodice piece is finished. You have just manipulated darts. Congratulate yourself. And now it's time to work on the back bodice. To establish how long our side seam needs to be, grab your front bodice and measure either side of the side dart. Plot this measurement upwards along your side back and make a mark. For me, this hits the base of my arm side, but this will be different for each person. From this mark, curve a line slightly downwards to meet at the centre back. Ensure that this curve is no less than 1.5 inches above your back dart. And that is your back bodice piece finished. Both bodice pieces will be cut on a fold at centre front and centre back, with my intention being to install a side zip at the left side. To create a pattern piece for the shoulder strap, draw a rectangle that measures 4 inches wide and 18 inches long. Turning to our trouser block, I simply widened the legs slightly, as you can see in orange marker here. I came outwards from the front hem by 3/4 of an inch on the inseam and by 1/2 inch on the outseam, repeating this same process on the back pattern piece too, but by 1/8 of an inch less on each side. I then drew upwards from these points to meet the trouser block, creating a wider legged trouser pattern for our jumpsuit. Now it's time to construct our jumpsuit. To begin, I am pinning and cutting out all of my pattern pieces, placing both of my bodice pieces to be cut out on a fold at centre front and centre back. Starting with the straps, I interfaced them with iron-on interfacing, then folding them in half lengthways, right sides together, I stitched all along the length using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I then turned them right side out and pressed them ready to be attached later. Next, I sew all the darts in my trouser and bodice pieces, and I tend to batch all these operations together. I mark all the darts and then have a break. I then pin all the darts and have a break, and then I sew all the darts and have a break. It just makes my sewing so much more accessible to me. I then finished the upper edges of both of my bodice pieces by simply folding in the seam allowance to the wrong side by 1/2 inch and top stitching in place like so. It is one of the great advantages of this poly blend fabric. It does not fray at all. Wonderful. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I then joined the front and back bodices together at the right hand side seam, leaving the left seam open to install the zip. It was then time to construct the trousers, using a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the in and out seams. On the left leg out seam, I marked where the base of my zip would be, sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance from this mark down to the hem. Pinning all the way along the waistline right sides together, it's now time to join the two portions of our jumpsuit together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Zip time. My biggest tip for installing any type of zip is baste your zip in first. This allows you to have a quick fitting of your garment before you install the zip. There is nothing worse than actually fully sewing in a zip to find out your garment doesn't fit and then have to seam rip. It is a nightmare. Not only is it great for this, but basting your zip in also makes insertion so much easier. You don't have to avoid pins, and it creates a much nicer, neater zip. Great. Taking my straps, I pinned and sewed them to the back bodice, positioning them in line with my back darts. To work out where my straps should join my bodice front, I tried my jumpsuit on and used pins as a guide, then sewing the straps in place. The final step to finish your jumpsuit is to simply hem the trousers by folding in the seam allowance to the inside and top stitching. There you have it, how to create your very own 40s inspired jumpsuit from your trouser and bodice block patterns with added growling. Luna's clearly not happy about her jumpsuit. But until next week, from a very growly Luna and I, take care. Bye-bye. You alright? Okay.